ability to land hard shots in so tight, that dude is phenomenal. He's fantastic. When you watch him fight, man, he's so precise.
When Terence Crawford knocked out Shawn Porter, fans saw the finish. What they didn't see was the trap that made it inevitable. Crawford's genius isn't just in switching stances or his knockout power. It's in how he controls the fight with one weapon, his lead hand.
You know, you can set your jab up a lot of ways. You know, you can move your jab all the way around. You know, you want to touch the shoulders, you want to touch the hands, the body, the face, you know what I mean, the chest.
He's been called the most complete fighter of this generation. Athletic, durable, ruthless. He can box and he can brawl. He can fight in either stance. But what truly separates him is his mastery of the lead hand, a skill that doesn't rely on freakish genetics. It's a set of tactics you can learn and utilise yourself. So let's break down how Terence Crawford wins the fight before the first power punch is even thrown. What is lead hand play? Lead hand play is the tactics and techniques used with the lead hand. Why is this so important? Because it controls the distance, the rhythm and the flow of the fight. Want to make your opponent hesitate? Land a shot they must respect.
Number 9.
The lead hand is the closest weapon to the opponent, so it has less distance to travel, making it inherently quicker. Even if you aren't the fastest fighter, you can make up for that disadvantage with clever distance management. The hand fight is a fencing battle with the lead hand to establish a superior position to punch and defend from. Crawford will employ several tactics to win the hand fight.
Put him in a safe position to let his combinations go. Beautiful right hand!
From southpaw, Crawford will keep his lead hand extended. This serves two purposes. It brings it closer to the opponent to land his own power punches, and it occupies the space and blocks the opponent's path to land their own lead hand. Clever. Two simple tactics to manage distance and overcome an athletic disadvantage. You don't have to react to a punch if you can prevent it from being thrown.
See, his jab is giving Terence Crawford problems, and Terence goes southpaw.
By creeping your feet closer to the opponent as you prevent them from throwing their own lead hand, you bring yourself closer to the target, which means you don't have to be as fast to get in and out when the time is right. Want to land a power punch? Well, you're already there. This tactic helps Crawford to sneak himself into range to throw a lead left hand.
And now it is Bud Crawford and Vasily Lomachenko, who vied. Three-punch combination moments ago by Crawford that spiked this crowd here. You saw him double up that left hand.
By bringing his hand inside of the opponent's lead hand, he's essentially parrying it. He flares the elbow out and brings his wrist inside of the opponent's hand, preventing them from punching. He can also use this position to clear the path for his own jab.
And he has good speed.
But his sense of himself as a fighter was based on those sparring sessions. He's never been in with anyone like that, except for when he was a kid.
This isn't the most effective position to punch from. The jab will never have a tremendous amount of power, but it will annoy the opponent and it can draw them into a habit of pouring out. This habit can be exploited. Touching the lead hand of your opponent gives you a sense of distance.
So my distance is here. If I can touch you, you know what I mean, I'm in range.
And if you can get them to pour, it gives predictability that you can time.
Safe position to let his combinations go. Beautiful right hand.
Subtle plays like this are part of a bigger picture. Mini battles along the way towards winning the war.
See the legs right there of Brook as he wobbled back to that corner. Nice finish up right here, combination from Terence.
Now, if that tactic is so effective, why have a different hand position? Well, that depends on what your opponent is giving you. Crawford will position the palm of his hand on top of the opponent's glove in the hand fight, which he can then use to punch over the top of their extended arm. This tactic also works well if there is no hand to fight. If the opponent is operating from a Philly shell or a lowered lead hand, Crawford can flick a jab straight to the target. Now we've talked about the hand battle, we must examine the foot battle, as this can be just as important for Crawford to be able to implement his southpaw tactics when against an orthodox opponent. By moving to his right as a southpaw, he is taking himself further away from his opponent's right hand. This is the outside foot position in the foot battle. When utilising this strategy, it's important to move around the opponent at a roughly 45-degree angle. Why? This is the sweet spot where you can reduce the angle to land your own lead hand whilst keeping yourself at a safe enough distance to throw whilst moving away from the opponent's danger punch. You might be thinking, but can't the opponent just bomb with the left hook? Yes, in theory, but when combined with the hand fighting tactics, he can make it very awkward for an opponent to throw their own lead hand, and with the superior hand position, Crawford's hand above the opponent's, he brings his shoulder in the way of his chin and gives himself the advantage of being able to punch over the opponent's punch. Again, a tactic that you can utilise. Punching whilst moving is a skill within itself, and it's something you have to practice. This is why padmen will move and create different looks in the gym. It's also why you'll see boxers methodically stepping around a bag as they punch in training. This might be a very small and obvious detail, but it's important to practice. If you don't have the footwork, you can't execute.
Then he's able to set up his combinations.
Oh, he scores a knockdown!
Now back to the lead hand. Crawford is an excellent counterpuncher, and yes, this requires speed, athleticism, fantastic reaction time.
To fighter. That timing came
Another look at it right here. Terence following him out.
This isn't your average Joe journeyman boxer after all, but Crawford uses simple lead hand play to help him reduce the amount of reaction time to be an effective counterpuncher. So we've looked at some of Crawford's southpaw tactics, so let's switch it up and go to orthodox. This is the luxury afforded to a fighter able to operate out of both stances. In orthodox versus orthodox or southpaw, there is a clearer path for the jab. Crawford will alter his game accordingly. Crawford will use throwaway jabs to bait the opponent to throw, whilst Crawford is in prime position to capitalise. When we talk about a throwaway jab, it kind of is what it says. It's a means of Crawford throwing a jab without the intention of landing it. And again, this is a great tactic you can utilise. Not every punch has to land in boxing, sometimes we're just trying to create an opportunity. This is chess, not checkers. Crawford is planning moves ahead. You can use a throwaway jab for multiple reasons: to test the opponent's defence, to keep them occupied, stopping them from stepping in, or to check their counter-punching tendencies. Good fighters capitalise on mistakes, great fighters make you make mistakes.
That's exactly what Khan has to do. He has to out-jab Crawford, because once Crawford starts getting his jab landing, then he's able to set up his combinations.
Oh, he scores a knockdown!
Now we go back to southpaw, we can see Crawford feint or bait to land his lead hook. Baiting refers to using a feint or deliberately vulnerable looking move to lure an opponent into throwing a punch, setting up a counter-attack. A fighter creates a target or an opening by momentarily lowering a glove, sticking out a jab, or using a specific body position to make the opponent react with a predictable punch, such as a jab. Now we go back to southpaw, we can see Crawford feint and bait to land his lead hook.
As I say that, he gets whacked.
You can talk for days about the subtleties of feints, but to simplify it, a feint is a deceptive, fake movement designed to trick an opponent into reacting defensively, creating an opening for a real attack, or just disrupting their timing and balance altogether. We talked about the hand fight battle, and how Bud deals with it. As discussed, he will fence for position, but occasionally he opts out of it altogether. If he's not going to engage in a hand fight, he'll use baits and feints to expose openings for counterpunches. This is the go-to tactic against an opponent boxing from a high guard. Crawford's best combination, the 2-3, usually comes from a bait technique like a throwaway jab. It's all about adaptability, knowing the why and when to use a certain strategy. So how does Crawford switch between stances so safely? Well, switching between stances becomes a lot safer when you have an effective lead hand game from both sides. He puts an equal amount of time practicing in both stances in the gym.
Yeah, if you do 4 rounds, you're going to do 2 rounds southpaw, you're going to do 2 rounds orthodox.
Here we see Crawford step through from orthodox with the right hand, and he turns it into a lead hand frame to obstruct Kell Brook's counter. He's got a built-in defence. He then spends a substantial amount of time picking Brook off from the southpaw stance. Crawford isn't switching stance as a temporary look change or to simply step through and set up a power punch by shifting. He has a strategy from both sides and can spend entire rounds in either stance. Usually a fighter can throw punches from their opposite stance but will feel vulnerable defending. Crawford's defence is just as good as his offence from both sides. This is what makes him so complete and such a puzzle to solve.
Orthodox now. He smells the knockout.
And now,
To add the cherry on the cake of Crawford's outstanding lead hand game, it's the footwork that he will marry with it to execute his bait strategies. Pendulum footwork is the rhythmic in and out movement that resembles a pendulum swing. This is commonly seen amongst the Soviet stylists who generally have an excellent amateur boxing pedigree where scoring points is the priority. This footwork enables a fighter to move in and out of range quickly. The downside to this method is it can be timed and it doesn't allow a fighter to sit down on their punches. However, Crawford uses the footwork as part of a bait strategy. It's a full step in, moving close enough to tempt the opponent to throw whilst already prepared to step away. The pendulum stays in motion. Combining this with a throwaway jab or a feint can lure the opponent into a trap of attempting to counter the lead hand, only to hit thin air. The aim is to bring the opponent out of position, off balance and in range to be hit.
Best he can with what he has. You know, at the end of the day, you know, me and Amir Khan were two different fighters, two different pedigrees, and he's doing the best he can with what he has.
I put him to sleep with left or
Yes.
right.
But what you can do is you can put punches.
Which
together.
one you want?
Terence Crawford's genius isn't just in his power, speed or even his ability to switch stances, it's in the subtleties, the way he makes the smallest battles with the lead hand dictate the war. Whether it's parrying and controlling space with a southpaw frame, baiting mistakes with throwaway jabs or marrying footwork with feints to draw his opponent out of position, Crawford turns the lead hand into a scalpel, cutting down every layer of his opponent's defence. Crawford isn't just reacting, he's dictating. He isn't just countering, he crafts the mistakes before punishing them. In the hands of a fighter that can do everything, it becomes the foundation of a style that is almost impossible to solve.
You know, it's one punch at a time, hoping something happened and making something happen.
Of Gamboa, he drops it again.
As always, thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed this, head over to the Pro Striking Patreon for extra breakdowns and tutorials over there. Pro Striking appreciates you more than a Terence Crawford lead hand.
Forward and firing at Crawford for the moment. There's the overhand right and